Nice.
Okay, we are live. Few people here already. Welcome, welcome. We'll give everyone a few minutes to join before we kick off. Let us know where you're from, like what you're hoping to learn, maybe in the chat, or say hello. Let us know you can hear us okay. Very cold today, Milan. We're both shivering in the prep
Yes.
hall. Just
We actually, as I mentioned this, like the maintenance guys from the building just walked in to try and fix, not in this room, but over there to try to fix the heating.
I respect you for like just a shirt with no heating, like the commitment to the smartness for the webinar.
Uh,
Kudos to you.
as soon as I'm done, I'm gonna jump in and grab a sweater, essentially. The one that we have, the Creatio one in the cupboards here for the clients, essentially.
Awesome. Welcome everyone. 20 odd people. We've only got it's just a half an hour session, so we will literally kick off in a minute or so, but we will just give everyone another minute to join. Um, can anyone pop in the chat? Just let us know you can hear us, let us know we're broadcasting okay. Always reassures me when one person says hello.
I presume everybody hears this.
Last time I think the chat's turned on. I don't know how to check.
Oh yeah, there's some Q&As popping up.
Thank you everyone.
Oh, the chat is
Chat
disabled.
is
Okay.
disabled. Daisy, if you're listening, would you mind turning the chat on if you can? Thanks everyone for dropping a question there.
Yep.
Chat is
Also,
on. There we go. Good to know if everyone just wasn't ignoring us. Here we go. Welcome, welcome everyone. Um, awesome. Drop a hello in the chat. And I think we'll kick off because we only got 30 minutes. So welcome. Thanks to everyone who's joined so far. Welcome if you're just joining. This is our second seed webinar. We've titled today the Hypergrowth Playbook. We've got Milan as our guest who's been through kind of a hypergrowth phase a couple of times at different companies. So the perfect person to have on for this conversation. Yeah, we're going to be talking about scaling at pace and also kind of competing for talent with maybe some of the big boys, the bigger tech companies who have more budget and how you can compete against them for the same folks. If you haven't come across our webinar series, we are Scede. My name's Joe. I'm a director of AI. We partner with high growth tech companies on all things talent and people. And we see these kind of hyper growth scaling challenges and pain points a lot. So, yeah, excited to talk about them today with Milan. I'll hand over to you for a quick intro on yourself.
sure. My name is Milan, as you already know. I've been in recruitment for about 10 years right now. Originally started in a few agencies, but then quickly transitioned into the in-house recruitment and mostly focusing on like SaaS types of businesses. Mostly scale ups, some startups as well. And over the past 5 years, I transitioned fully into go-to-market hiring. And that's been across essentially the world right now between in my last company, SimilarWeb, EMEA and APAC, and now here at Creatio. I also lead a team of 11 recruiters working across Europe and kind of Americas, but only focusing go-to-market hiring right now.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel like go-to-market is like the epicenter of it for companies scaling. Like
Yes.
you're often getting talent into go-to-market functions, so you probably feel these pain points more than anyone. So, tell us a bit about your experience scaling teams, like during those high growth phases, and maybe what the key lessons have been for you.
Yeah. I mean, I've been through two of them so far. One was at SimilarWeb. The second one is now going through at the moment through Creatio. At SimilarWeb between, I want to say 2021 and 2023, but when I was there, we went from like 500 people to like more than 1,000. Most of that came in the go-to-market teams. But some of the biggest kind of lessons and things that I learned through this hyper growth and is that most companies underestimate the capacity of their recruitment function in general, and they only realize it when it's too late. So the way that that happened is companies usually like put this like a organizational ramp pretty quickly and pretty aggressively, but they always forget kind of about the TA team to scale and to understand like what do they need to achieve that hiring plan. And that means that recruiters get overloaded, hiring managers are frustrated, and then that pressure kind of grows from quarter to quarter when you don't deliver on the amount of hires, and then you lose revenue as well. And then the way that kind of from my experience, you can overcome that and some of the things that I did previously is to do a pretty in-depth analysis of your team. You can look into a few things. From my perspective, that'll be a team capacity. That means how many recruiters do you have today and what is their individual capacity? Looking into the historic data, meaning like how many roles each recruiter can close per given year. And then next to that, looking into the hiring demand, meaning what does the next 12 months look like in terms of the headcount growth across the either go-to-market team or again, it's applicable to other teams as well. Because hypergrowth is not just more roles, it's also more complexity because as you scale these teams, you will get new first-line leaders, new second-line leaders who need to learn first about the business, but then also how your team operates and how the recruitment works in your organization. So there's so much more complexity as you scale. And in some cases also there's market constraints. As an example here at Creatio, Germany, for example, is a pretty difficult market to break into. So you need to take into consideration like how much time you need to put into sourcing, but also the outreach, because sometimes you might need more touch points. And in some cases in Germany, you might need like 2-3 times more sourcing than you would in UK or US or whatever else. When you put this analysis like together, you actually have a full-on data-driven capacity model. And when you go to speak with your manager or a CEO or whoever needs to approve the budget for the growth of your team, you're not coming to them with, hey, I need more help. It's more like, here's the capacity model, here's the gap, here's what I need as a lead or just as a recruiter to kind of bridge that gap and to reach the hiring plan. And this turns us away from being a bottleneck to more like a strategic growth partner, if that makes sense.
And tell me how you're like framing that conversation, because I think it's really interesting. So you're looking at capacity
Yes.
versus demand, and then if you've got a gap there, like you're asking to fill that gap with extra capacity, right? Are you going as far as looking at, revenue numbers here? Because I guess the good thing about it being like a sales role is this person can produce 100K of revenue per month. If we're 3 months late on hiring this person, that's costing us 300K. Like, are you bringing those kind of numbers to the conversation?
Yes, it sometimes comes from us, but in most of the times it will come from either your CRO or your CEO, depends on
Yeah.
who you're having a conversation with. But yes, it does come into play, especially actually both at SimilarWeb and Creatio. It's always a conversation with either a CRO or CEO. And when you're having those conversations, if you're late with hiring, yes, you will be late on delivering the revenue, or they will be late on delivering those revenue targets. In both companies, in both instances, the reps were always carrying like $1 million quota. So if you need to hire like 30 reps in one region, that means that until they ramp up, realistically, 6 to 8 months, if you look at any company's performance, if you're late, you miss that amount of time to ramp them up. But then also if you made the hiring mistakes, because it does happen, like I want to say 20-30% of the time you will make a hiring mistake. You will never be like 100% perfect. You will lose the onboarding time, you will lose the ramp time from the rep, and then also the hiring time as well. So all of that kind of combines into the revenue targets, and it does build the pressure from quarter to quarter, as I mentioned. But yes, those numbers do come into play when discussing with executives.
Yeah, I love that commercial lens to
Yes.
looking at kind of planning on the TA side. Another challenge kind of when moving at pace is everyone wants hires yesterday or kind of tomorrow, right? So you need to move quickly. How do you balance that speed with like maintaining a high bar and quality?
I learned this painfully actually at SimilarWeb when I was there. So it was a lot of like quick hiring when I joined in 2021. Excuse me. But there's a few kind of fundamental principles when trying to balance like hypergrowth and quality of hire. And I would say from experience, like first, before ever starting to work on these roles, you need clarity on what great looks like within your own organization. That starts again. I'm a very data-driven person, so a lot of data analysis is going to come up in this conversation. That starts with the analysis of looking at your current top performers, meaning where do they come from? Are they coming from the same industry with domain knowledge that creates a faster ramp? Or are they coming from a high velocity startup environment where resilience or challenger mindset matters more than product expertise? But on this, you have to partner with your regional leaders. Again, whether it being for GTM or for technical roles or whatever it is, partner with those leaders, figure out who are your top performers, and then based off of that you can kind of create a few things. You can create a target industries, you can create a target companies that you want to go after, and the candidates persona that have the highest probability of success in your environment. And then this you can then later turn into a very structured scorecard that you can use across your interview process for many different aspects. Again, depends on what you're looking to do. But all of this will effectively kind of slow down your time to hire slightly, but it does have an upside because your quality of hire will be higher. You will not have to do a emergency backfill for a role if somebody leaves or doesn't pass their probation or whatever it is. In my team currently at Creatio, the pass-through rate on the first stage, the recruiter stage, is only between like 20 to 30%. But then on the other end, when they reach the hiring manager, it's 70%. So the quality there is like a lot higher, which means that at the end, we actually have more quality hires, stay with us longer, perform, and then ultimately become the top performers within the company.
Yeah, I think there's with interesting on the like dialing in on the profile, we're seeing almost a similar thing with our AI sourcing trials we're doing at the moment, in that there's more upfront work to really like dial into
Yes.
that profile and like be more and more specific on it. But then once you have it, like then you're off to the races and you can
Yes.
move very quickly, right? I'm interested in your experience, like how big of a data set do you need to like make those assumptions? And to give an example, if you have, a sales team of just four and there's two top performers and they have something in common, there's probably a good chance that that is luck versus it being a trend. Like how big a data set do you need?
That's a good question. I can speak only from experience. Like at SimilarWeb, the go-to-market team was quite large. It was about 300 people by the time we left, and that's fully focusing on like the sales, pre-sale sales, and some post-sales. Creatio right now globally, we are, I want to say like at 100 something AEs. But it really depends. If you're in a smaller company, especially if it's a startup, it's more going to be in some cases, I want to say like gut feeling of what's going to work based on what you're trying to build and what you're trying to sell. Whereas scale ups like where Creatio is right now or where SimilarWeb was, you have a really significant amount of data, historically speaking, because the companies were older, had a little bit more experience. You can look at that historical data, but I want to say for larger companies such as Creatio, you need to look at each region, what works region to region. And I want to say like not less than, for a company of our size, like 800 people, like not less than like looking at 10 AEs in a specific region to kind of understand where they come from and what they do. As an example, at SimilarWeb, we found out that people from the digital marketing industry didn't really work well back then. And people coming from slightly different like startup environments work better. Whereas Creatio, it's actually 50-50. We have people who are coming from within the industry who are performing really well, but we also have people coming from startup environments where resilience and urgency is key to them. And that
Yeah.
also works really well. So it's kind of like 50-50.
Yeah, it makes sense. Cool. Well, halfway through, if you have any questions for Milan, feel free to drop them in the Q&A section, and we should have a good amount of time at the end to work through some of those. Moving on to the next topic, though, really interested to talk about this sort of challenger brand mentality, and I think this is a thing that certainly like more mature scale-ups will feel, is that they're competing for talent with like the big players with, huge budgets and probably bigger salary and like realized equity packages they can give folks. What's your approach to competing in those kind of talent pools?
I think this is an issue for pretty much all companies, like whether you are focusing on go-to-market hiring or tech, you're always competing against somebody. At Creatio, we're competing against Salesforce, Microsoft, Zoho, whoever, like all of these like bigger like CRM or workflow automation companies, we're competing against them. And yeah, we cannot offer like the benefits package or the enormous salaries they can offer there. But there's a few things that I can highlight here. Like when you're competing like with these giants, you're not trying to match them for brand power. You're looking to essentially increase the value proposition that you're offering to them. So in mid-size or high growth companies, candidates or people can have a dramatically larger impact than they could have in some of these larger companies. So that can mean they have a say on how the product looks like. They have a say on how the go-to-market strategy look like. The ownership will be a lot higher than it would be in a 10,000 people company plus. Secondly, there's always external validation. So at both Creatio and SimilarWeb, we were lucky that some of the biggest um, insights leaders out there were recognizing us as leaders, such as Gartner, Forrester, G2. So, or any other type of, if you have any other type of validation from external sources that can say this is a company that's making waves in this specific industry or this specific sector, can always be helpful. And again, it always shows that you're actively overperforming or winning against your competition. You can also bring use cases, for example, if candidates wants to know, like, okay, why are you winning against Salesforce? We can ask the sales leaders, like, hey, this is the candidates what is asking for. Can we have a use case that's publicly available that we can share with the candidates? That's always a big thing. And then the last thing is, and probably the most important, is growth, learning, and earning potential. It's something that I think everybody looks at. At these major companies, growth is sometimes can be quick, but in most cases, like you need to spend a lot of years there to get to a certain level of position. And in scale-up companies such as Creatio or in any other scale-up companies similar to Web, you can get there much quicker just based on your performance. Learning curve is much shorter in some cases. Like you get to learn a lot more things as you scale these teams, as you help them grow. And then earning potential, there can be two sides. One, you can already be a public company, and you can offer like stock options, and just in general, the base package could be slightly larger. And if you're private, such as Creatio right now, based on their achievements, you can offer them like certain grants each year, because that can have a huge upside for them if and when company goes public eventually.
Nice. Yeah, I think like particularly the talent you're looking at, right? Like there's probably a couple of things they generally care about, like salespeople, like being like able to like earn more for like the work they put in, right? So
Yes.
the comp is clearly a thing, but also like they're typically probably quite high agency people, so that environment would probably be a big factor, I
You,
imagine, as well.
you're looking to position yourself uh, as a challenger, yes, but it's not a disadvantage. In most of the cases, it's actually an advantage for the candidates, especially if you're hiring within your industry. And let's say that you're competing against Amazon, and all of the top talent is there. Like they maybe want to change. They maybe want to go to a place where they have a more dramatic impact right away, as opposed to waiting 10 years to make a real difference.
Awesome. Good question from Georgia in the chat. How can we help businesses to understand what good looks like? I find they don't think deep enough with this.
Um, I would go back to that analysis, looking at the top performers in your company and figuring out what that looks like with your leaders. So you can sit down, look at the top performers, confirm that with leaders, and then together with your stakeholders, you can present that to your C level. But it all comes back to that deep dive analysis into like what works for your company. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, I think that was the question around like nailing that profile. Is there any particular questions you'd ask like the hiring managers? Like again, in sales, it's probably you can look at the data quite clearly, right? Like who is selling
Yes.
the most? Is there maybe for anyone outside GTM, is there any like key questions you can ask the hiring manager to be able to identify who they are?
I would also always look at the people that didn't work out. Why didn't they work out? Like do a post-mortem analysis, like what happened, like what did we miss in the interview process for this specific candidate? Why did they fail? It could be even a year and a half after they joined the company. Just go back and have a look, because it really sometimes can uncover certain things that maybe back then we weren't having enough information to kind of uncover that throughout the interview process. But it's always good to like kind of add it up as you go, but always doing that post-mortem analysis to figure out like what didn't work is a key.
Awesome. Cool. Let us know if you have any other questions for Milan. Can't see any at this point. Feel free throw some in the chat if you have any. In the meantime, any opportunity for me to ask about AI, I will always take it. How are things on the AI front for you at the moment? Anything like you're looking at right now?
Yes, actually. Well, you already know that I'm a big fan of Granola AI for note taking. It's not
Yeah.
on right now because this is recorded anyway. But because it's free, it's quite easy to implement. It doesn't join the calls. It sits in the background. You don't need to explain what it is. However, there's drawbacks, like it doesn't connect to a lot of systems. It doesn't connect to your ATS. We are looking right now pretty actively into Mraovic, which is like a end-to-end recruitment AI kind of solution. Um, I can't say that I have a lot of information to share right now because we're just looking into it. But the biggest challenge we had like was overcoming the our information security team to kind of make sure that it aligns with our security protocols and that it aligns with our use of AI policy. So in this case, we want to make sure that AI is not the one making a final decision on the candidate, but more focusing on helping us enriching our data and our feedback before we make the final decision as people, not as an AI.
Yeah, our team loves granola as well. We're getting better at the moment, like collaborating on granola as well. So you can throw things in folders, and then it has Gemini baked into the back end, which has just had a big upgrade. So there's tons of great things you can do there. I don't know if you have like an automation tool or Zapier, but like Zapier can plug
Yep.
granola into other tools. So could be something to look at. Question from Stephen. Is benchmarking against your high performers setting an unrealistic bar for hiring future talent? Not all teams need star performers, right? Can you speak about how this comes into your thinking?
Um, Sometimes I think you can go on your gut feeling as well, and we've seen that both at SimilarWeb at Creatio. Um, Not everything has to like match 100% of what you kind of set out that your top performer will do. We took some chances in the US where we hired people who came completely outside of our parameters, and they turned out to be great performers. There's always there's always that like a gut feeling to it. So if you feel that this candidate could do well but it doesn't match like 100% of what your performer is doing right now or what your analysis uncovered, go for it. But you need to have in my experience, like you need to have a strong champion in the business who's going to support this candidate going forward, whether that being the sales director or a VP of engineering, whoever it is. Like you need some sort of support to show that yes, this candidate will do well.
Yeah, I think there's also a difference, right, in terms of, the hiring profile. You're of course looking for the best candidates possible. But then there's also like the internal targets and performance management,
Yes,
which I agree with Stephen's point, like should be at an attainable level for everyone. Like you shouldn't say like just because our top performer has achieved X revenue, therefore everybody else should be able to. So I think there's maybe a
yes,
slight difference
should be a
between
middle ground.
between like we're looking for those star performers, but in terms of the performance management, it's level across the team. Cool. Probably time for one more question if anyone has one. Otherwise, Milan and I are going to run to somewhere warmer after this, I think.
Yes.
Looking like that might be it. Okay, well, cool. Thanks so much everyone for joining. Appreciate the questions and the engagement. Milan, thanks so much for
Of
joining
course.
us. Best place to connect with you, LinkedIn.
Yes, if anybody wants to really connect, like send a LinkedIn request and I'm happy to jump on a call and discuss any questions you might have.
Awesome. Cool. We'll call it there. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.